It doesn't matter who you are, when you're first starting out, changing guitar chords sucks. When I was a beginner, there was one guy I knew who could kind of play guitar, and he'd play stuff like... And I was amazed at how fast he could switch hand positions and play different chords. I thought he was a wizard. Now, with the luxury of hindsight, I now know that he wasn't a wizard, but actually just kind of a scumbag who would always hit on your girlfriend when you're not around. But that's besides the point. What I'm here to talk about today is how to take some shortcuts to get better at changing guitar chords. To a certain extent, it is all about just practicing in time, but there are a few different things you can think about to kind of cut off some of the learning curve. So the main thing I think that helped me a lot was thinking about having a lead finger no matter what chord you're using. So, and this could be from beginner chords to more intermediate advanced chords too. Like for example, if you have a C chord and you go into a G chord, I think it's easier to do the root of the chord first. So what I mean by that is in the C chord, the root note, the first note that you play is your ring finger, right? Now in a G chord, the root note is your middle finger. So it seems to work a lot better mentally if you just take one finger and move it and then have your hand kind of collapse around it. So you lead with your ring finger to make a C and then lead with your middle finger to do that. If you try kind of moving all your fingers at the same time, it can be confusing. And this isn't just for beginner chords. It can be anything. Like if you're going to like a G major chord down to like a F sharp minor 7 flat 5 chord or something like that. If you just think of your root chord here and then getting here first and then having the form of your hand kind of follow up, that's always going to be a better way to train the muscle memory in your hand, and it's a good way to get to a chord from any situation. So for example, like an A minor chord to a C chord. Now the most efficient way to do that would be to just take your ring finger and pop it down to the root note, right? And just go A minor to C. But if you're just going back and forth like that the whole time, you're really just training yourself to get to a C from an A minor. Even though it seems less efficient, if you go from an A minor and come off and reform root chord, now you're actually practicing a C chord, and you can still go root chord from anything. You could go from an F to a C, to a G to a C, and that muscle memory of getting into a C position or any chord position is going to be really, really helpful. So that's just one way to kind of always think about it. Think of the root chord first, no matter where it is. Even if it's an A minor and the root is an open string, think of your middle finger first, getting to 2D, and then have the rest of your hand form around it. And even in, again, more intermediate chords, like something like... The chords here are like C sharp, minor 6 to C6 to B13 to A major 7, whatever. If you just think of middle finger 9, middle finger 8, index 7, index 5. It's easier to form those other shapes after you hit the root. And that kind of playing is really prevalent in different types of music, you know. Now another thing you can do to speed up chord development is to forget about traditional voicings. What I mean by that is when you first learn, you'll see a G chord, and it'll give you maybe like a chord box, and it says put your middle finger, your second finger on the 3rd fret of the E string, and then your second finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, and maybe your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the E string. Now that's great, and that's a great way to learn, especially if it's like the first time you're playing it, but this is just a G chord. It's not the G chord. There's a million different ways to play a G chord, and sometimes this won't be the most efficient. For example, if I'm playing like A minor to a F to a C to a G, that's kind of a really quick movement, depending on how fast the tempo of the song is. So what I might want to do is go A minor to F to C and play a G like that, just by like moving a C up a string and dropping my pinky down. It might be more uncomfortable at first, but as you get better, these little efficiency tricks will help you kind of move along and do things faster. Another way that you can actually get better at the speed at which you change is to just really fake it until you make it. Now, what I mean by that is between any two chords is always a transitional period, no matter how small or how long that is. Like for example, let's take G to B minor, something like that. And we'll just go like 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in between those beats, there's a small amount of time, or maybe it's a longer amount of time depending on what tempo you're doing, that allows my hand to get from here to here. Now what you don't want to do is make the tempo of the song you're playing dependent on how fast you can change your chord. Again, what I mean by that is if the fastest I can change the chord is from G to B, really fast like that, and that's kind of how you're practicing, that'll show up in your playing, and you'll play something even at a slower tempo like G. And then it'll be rushed. What you want to do to create good timing is to just really keep your right hand going and think of your right hand as a deadline for your left hand, or if you're left-handed, think of your strumming hand as a deadline for your fretting hand to meet. So again, if I have 4 counts on G, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then B minor, something like that, I want to give myself as much time as I can to get to that B minor, but I don't want to stop my right hand. Never stop your right hand. Just don't stop. Just make yourself keep doing it. If it takes you a while to get to the B minor, so be it. You're just playing in time and you're developing better practice routines. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Even if I can't get to that B minor till the 3rd beat, it doesn't matter. It doesn't sound so bad if the strings are like an open set of strings are being hit. In fact, you'll notice that like if you listen to different acoustic guitar songs, especially, the last beat between chords might be completely open. It actually has a cool effect. So I'll just take a couple chords like G to B minor. So that's just a G, B minor, A minor, C progression. And you'll notice between every chord I do, there's going to be a moment, or almost a whole beat, where I'm just completely off. So I'll exaggerate with my hand like. And just jumping off the strings like that is buying my fretting hand to make that chord shape kind of on top of where I want to put it down. And it sounds a lot better than just waiting, your right hand waiting for your fretting hand like. That's kind of really a disconjointed way of playing, and it might sound like that right now, but really try to force yourself to keep a steady beat with your right hand, and then just... as long as it takes you to make those chords, that's fine, as long as you're playing in time. So really just kind of use these tips. Again, it's hard to really make a lot of shortcuts other than just practicing, but if you really thoughtfully try to move your fingers around, you'll develop better muscle memory, your fingers are going to kind of come along faster, and you're going to get a lot better at chords.